Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Hike. And today, my guest is someone who describes himself as a voice of 25 years of remote work. Hagop, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi. I'm a marketing professional. I've worked remotely for more than 25 years. Remote work has become a very, very big industry, as in especially post COVID. Right now, you have all kinds of service providers, product providers, vendors around the theme of remote work and digital nomadism included. Uh, but there are very few people who've been doing this for their entire career, and it's sort of over time it's become the overarching theme of my career right now. um, i'm I help professionals and companies make that transition to remote work and prepare for a future that's becoming increasingly unpredictable.
So, you're a veteran in a field that gets more traction in the last couple of years.
Yes, a tremendous amount of traction. Remote work was something that if you did before COVID or in the decade before that, people would ask you, "Why don't you get a real job in an office?" Um, it was by far the exception rather than the rule. I'm not the first one to go to remote work, obviously, and not the only one at the time, but it was a rarity. Now, what made it the new normal was, of course, COVID. That put everybody in their home, and people had to devise new ways to keep the work going and to keep communicating and being productive. And the benefits of remote collaboration have become far too large for companies to ignore. The ability to go far beyond a 30-mile driving radius for the team that you want to work with, the economic advantages, the quality of the workforce that is open to you, etc. All of these things are far too significant to be ignored and to allow the world to get back to what it was, just before COVID. It's not going to happen. And there is one very important trend that is coming that's just around the corner that is also going to change everything, which is not just remote collaboration, but remote manipulation. Now, what that means is being able to, for example, run a hotel that you own completely remotely in another town, in another country, in other parts of the world that doesn't have any, for example, staff that is operated almost mechanically, except maybe maintenance and cleaning staff that come in and go. Um, some companies are already experimenting with co-pilots flying planes alongside the pilot, but from the ground.
Mm,
One of the best examples, of course, that I should mention is remote medicine, like doctors performing surgeries from halfway around.
yeah.
These are not new concepts. I mean, we're already familiar with the examples that I'm giving, but at one point, it's going to become mainstream. It's going to become a mainstream economic opportunity. And once that hits us, then remote work is going to mature fully into its full potential. And that is when it's going to be completely irreversible. The trend of pushing back against remote work does not have in my view, it does not have a solid foundation, a solid economic foundation, except just mental, psychological. The financial resistance comes from situations where companies have leased office buildings for long, they have very long leases, 10 years, 15 years, and those offices are ending up completely empty. There is an empty office crisis in the United States in the triple digit billions. So because of remote work, those offices are remaining empty, and there is an office lease crisis, and it's actually a real estate crisis because precisely because of remote work. And they're looking for things like repurposing them into other forms like residential, renting them out. I mean, even renting them out for weddings and silly stuff like that. But it's changing things tremendously. Yes. And it's
Mm.
going to keep doing so. So my position is that the only way to hedge against that is first stop putting your faith in the corporate ladder. That's one, definitely. There is no ladder anymore. There is not gonna be any ladder. Um, you don't know if your company is gonna be there, I don't know, 5, 10 years down the line. Um, and investing in yourself, in having a personal brand, in having what you could term as a side hustle. I don't like that term very much because it feels small. Something that you do on the side for a little extra cash so you can pay for the bills. No, a side hustle is something that can evolve into an entire career, as it has for me. Um, it's it should be for those who can see a little further ahead, the foundation for anyone's career path. And those who I believe that those who invest in themselves are those who are best positioned to take advantage of that.
That's a huge shift you're describing. Like the corporate ladder is no longer there. It's something that's hard to comprehend with and hard to understand for people that were educated in a system that led them to that corporate ladder. So
Yeah.
like
Uh,
I think even
one of my favorite figures that I listen to, Daniel Priestley. Um,
yeah.
I watched a video of him the other day, and he said, "There's no point in being in business school today." And he's even further along than I am, because it's not just about the career. The very rules of business are changing from day to day. What you knew yesterday is totally useless today. And if you try to apply what you knew yesterday and you think it's valid today, you're going to hit the wall. So the fundamental change that every professional needs to make is start learning fast, learn how to learn fast, and just jump in there. I mean, how many times in the last 2 years have we seen the rules completely flipped, right? Just these large language models have changed everything. These large language models are transitioning into, you know, they're becoming agents with decision-making abilities of their own, etc. And they're going to keep on adding abilities and abilities. And imagine what happens next if, as I mentioned earlier, these large language models also develop the ability to physically manipulate things.
Okay, the AI road is something that we can go deeper and
Oh,
deeper.
yeah,
It's like a rabbit hole where we're
correct,
gonna get stuck.
correct. But it's also the important thing about AI in our context is that it's going to wipe out a lot of the tasks. It's just going to completely wipe out a lot of the things that are considered jobs, part of someone's job today.
Yeah.
And therefore, the job descriptions are going to change, and a lot of career paths are going to just totally disappear.
And from what I understand, what you're doing now is you're helping people to make that transition into the world of solopreneurship. Is that it?
Correct.
And how are you
Correct.
doing that?
Through Remote Work Armenia, my co-founder and I, Matthew Zain, we founded Remote Work Armenia to one thing is, in the case of Armenia specifically, where we are, there's a lot of rural regions that are underserved in terms of economic opportunity. So we wanted first to bring economic opportunity to those regions and plant the idea in people's heads that you do not necessarily need to migrate or to go to come to the capital to find jobs, because if there are no jobs where you are, all you have to do is, if you have the right language skills, English specifically, but not exclusively, you can get a lot of remote work exactly where you are. There is
Yeah.
a significant trend of people leaving the larger cities for a more affordable and qualitatively better lifestyle outside. So why should people think about, just persist in mindsets that are already like 10 years old and don't fit the reality anymore? So
Mm.
people, all they need is a laptop and the right language skills and the soft skills, and they can build the hard skills required to have a very fruitful and very lucrative career exactly where they are. So that was our first goal. We've launched online training courses for professionals to make that transition, for professionals who have been in that linear corporate path, but now they can see that this has become very, very blurry. And they want to make that transition, and they want to become solopreneurs, or at least explore the opportunity to do so and invest in themselves rather than their career, their job, right? So we do training courses for both individuals and for companies. Now, we started with Armenia, but we're kind of growing outside Armenia's borders already.
That's what I was trying to say. Like the project sounds like something that's extremely scalable. And you
It
can
is
scale it especially to geographies where English is not the first language. So it's very flexible from what I see.
correct. It's highly scalable, very flexible. It did have a local origin point. That is where we started with Armenia, but we're transitioning slowly to online training. And once we make that transition to uh, digital courses, we're kind of expanding the scope and scale of this because there is a demand. But yes, it's very easily, very quickly, highly scalable.
There is demand for sure. And the demand is global and even in English speaking geographies as well. It's
Correct.
something that's disrupting everything and people are not really prepared.
No, they're not because it's happening. Too much is happening too fast.
Yeah.
The economic paradigm is changing very fast. Companies are adapting fast based on their requirements. But your individual, like the workforce itself is not adapting fast because you have to retrain. You have to change your mindset, first of all. You have to change and you have to transition from a situation where you had, this is the biggest problem, where you had relative safety. You felt a sense of safety in your job, even as someone who is highly educated and who's doing a high demand, who's in a high demand role with a high salary, even those people are feeling the very deep shock of insecurity that's hitting everybody at the moment. So nothing protects you from this, right? Except the, flipping your mindset, where your entire energy, your entire investment goes into your own self, like what you know, and raising yourself from the crowd, defining what makes you an individual, what differentiates you, what your unique skills are, and building a career path based on that. You don't have to give up, of course, what you know. What you know is that's precisely what you know is already valuable. But if 100,000 people know what you know, how can you differentiate yourself? And that is
Yeah.
where something else happens. We did a little experiment recently. We did a 40-minute online session where we combined um, interaction with a large language model
Mm.
with the Japanese Ikigai career model, the westernized version of the Japanese Ikigai model, to generate ideas for career paths that combine someone's skills, their education, their unique perception, their hobbies, their likes and dislikes, their preferences, etc., and to take that one step further, within a very short period of time, generate the first piece of content that someone can use,
Mm.
like a downloadable or an ebook or something that can help them, that further their career in their chosen direction. So um, large language models are fantastic at giving you all of these options and combining all these bits of data together to give you something that has tremendous potential. So what that does is essentially it flips the script. Instead of viewing AI as some sort of threat to someone's security, uh, AI becomes the fundamental support that can drive your next step in in your career.
Yeah. In this shifting paradigm is something that you need to use rather than be afraid of. Because like if you're
Yep.
afraid of, you stay away from it. If you stay away
Resisting
from
it,
it, you're
yes.
falling back.
Resisting it, avoiding it, pretending it doesn't exist is not going to help. And and it's not very difficult to flip the script. Actually, none of this is very hard to learn. Uh, It just takes a slight little, change the chip in your mind, and accept the fact that um, the future is completely unknown. Just accept that fundamental fact and just respond to it. And it does. You can do wonderful things with it. I mean, I was lucky enough to make that a little bit of a transition by chance 25 years ago. So I've kind of relied on myself for all of the, that solopreneur outlook on career outlook, and I'm finding that the more all of these things happen at the same time post COVID, the more valuable all that experience and knowledge is, and I'm out to share it with whoever wants to learn.
About the sharing part, The project, we talked about the project that's very scalable, both geographically and in terms of accessibility. But I'm wondering about the challenges that you face on the way of doing that.
Um, the biggest challenge is um, the biggest challenge in almost any situation, from my experience, is doing the marketing right,
Yeah.
because your ideal customer profile, so to speak, is also changing rapidly. You know, your target audience is also changing rapidly, and you have to keep up with that target audience. That is how fast things are changing, and it is challenging. I mean, if you take too long, for example, if you take too long to, let's say, publish a book on this subject, or publish a course, by the time you actually do it, it could become completely irrelevant. So I would say that is the biggest challenge.
Hmm. When you say that, when you talk about the fast shifts, I remember the change between DALI and the last image generating model OpenAI dropped, and like people were selling courses for DALI and Mid Journey, but now they
Yeah.
definitely shifted to ChatGPT because man,
If you
did you
you know
try
if
it?
you have DeepSeek today, for example. If you have you have DeepSeek launches today, tomorrow you're going to have ebooks and courses on how to become a millionaire with DeepSeek. I could say that is the second challenge around all this,
Mm,
um, because the tool that can help you um, is also the tool that is creating all that noise, right? That is because that is enabling all that noise
yeah,
through fast publication and fast responses, instant this, instant that, instant video, instant, take an avatar, put the text, done, you're done, go. Um, and it's very tempting for people to put out very low quality stuff just to be ahead of the curve, right? And that is what is happening in a lot of domains right now.
that makes it harder to find whatever you want to find because you don't know who to trust already.
Correct. So that is where branding comes in. Personal branding is, in my view, going to be the foundation for everyone's career paths. Their ability to differentiate themselves, reflect a certain level of quality and professionalism, and stand out from the rest of the crowd. Um, Hard skills are becoming easier and easier to train for,
Yeah, exactly.
and they're becoming um, easier to replace with automation. Soft skills are very difficult to replace, of course, with automation. So soft skills are becoming more and more and more valuable. And alongside those soft skills, you also have the personal branding aspect. So if you put those two together, then you have that is how people will project how professional and how qualified they are. More and more, it's going to happen more and more.
Crazy times.
I hear there is a Chinese curse, quote unquote, that says, "May you live in interesting times." We are living in very interesting times,
Yeah, we are. And people need to adapt to this as fast as they can.
as fast as possible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And of course, at the same time, invest in the younger generation as well. I mean, this extends to education. China has made AI education mandatory as of September for children as young as 6.
Mhm.
Um, America just signed a law and just signed a edict into law again for AI education. So countries are, governments are scrambling to make sure that they keep up, because if you fall behind, that is essentially going to become the new differentiator as well. I mean, we're going way beyond the context of our discussion, of course, but it's going to be the differentiator between what what countries qualify, which countries qualify as advanced and which don't. So adaptability is the name of the game for the next 20, 30 years.
So is adaptability something you're trying to achieve with your initiatives for people participating in
Yes,
it?
adaptability is something that became the foundation for my professional life by chance. right? I have shifted. I have an architectural education. I shifted to IT. I've written books. I do training. I do this. I do that. I have the ability. I developed it over time. The ability to shift to different, to different industries and become comfortable in them very quickly. Um, and what is happening is that this particular skill is becoming probably one of the most foundational skills, career skills across the board for any profession, for anyone starting from anywhere, if not the most important. So yes, I do find that there is a big demand for it, and I do enjoy sharing it and helping people make that change.
In that case, who are the people that you would like to share it with?
Right now, through Remote Work Armenia, um, early career professionals is the audience that we've worked with the most. We did explore a little bit working with university students. Um, it is difficult because they're also, like in a limbo state of mind. So they're not so responsive because they don't have the background yet. They do have. I mean, they see what you see, right? But they are invested in a certain path, and that creates certain resistance to mindset shift. Um, but the most adaptable are the early stage career professionals,
What
especially
about
those
the
who,
mid to seniors?
um, yes, there definitely is interest. I mean, look at the professional landscape today. Look at the state of work today. What varies is how much, people's risk tolerance, how much they're willing to risk, how much they're willing to, there's people who will quit their job today with limited savings and say, no, I'm doing this, I'm jumping, I'm becoming a digital nomad. I want to travel the world and do this and spend so many years here and a bunch of years there. And then there's the other end of the spectrum who want to train in something and build their brand and build a persona for themselves before they leave their job. And we're doing that. Our workshops are targeting mostly that audience because those are the ones who need the most help. Those are the ones who need that introduction and hold their hand a little bit and say, yeah, sure, it's a wise thing to do. Build your personal brand first. Have a certain persona that you want to transition to. Develop products and services that you can offer as an independent solopreneur, and then you can leave your job. Because as again, Daniel Priestley says, the biggest risk is placing your hope in your job today.
From what I understand, research, the skill to research was key before we went digital and before this whole AI craze. And now it seems like adaptability becomes the key skill that you need to have in order to keep up with the ever changing world and not to be left behind, especially if you're in a career ladder somewhere. So, what I'm curious about regarding you is to learn the single piece of insight that you had throughout the years of working remotely, of helping people get into remote, of exploring AI, and overall, just
Okay.
that
All right.
one idea that you have that you would like to share.
So about 12 years ago, I was working as an architect and interior designer, and it wasn't a remote role. I did have a remote role on the side, but I was also working in that capacity. And it was the time when smartphones were all the rage. It was what AI is today. Yeah, it was
Mm.
the craze of the day. So I wanted to make a transition to IT. Okay. Now, the issue with IT was that I had zero background. So what I did was I decided to write a book on iOS app development. I did the research, I did the writing, I did the illustrations, I did the editing. I compiled the book and I submitted it to A Press in New York, and they picked it up and they published it. And that opened the door for me. Since then, I've had no issue working with startups, mature tech companies. I'm in my fifth year as a product marketing manager. for a tech company in Austin, Texas. And that brings me to the fundamental insight that uh, that investing in yourself, in your own abilities to sustain yourself and build a career around what you know is probably the most valuable thing that you're ever going to do in your career. Being in a job means your manager tells you what to do. Your manager takes responsibility if things go wrong, and he makes the fundamental decisions. Investing in yourself means if it's right, you benefit. If it's wrong, you suffer. You make the decisions, you take the responsibility, and you take charge of being at the wheel. That is the biggest challenge for people, the psychological challenge when they transition to the solopreneurship world. But you can do a lot more than you think you can. It's a lot more fun than you think it's going to be, and it's a whole lot more rewarding than anything else you're ever going to do. So um, go for it. Do it
Go for it.
now.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Algop, for joining me today. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Hike. It was a very interesting
Same
discussion.
for
Thank
me.
you for hosting me.
I hope our audience got plenty of insights on remote work and how to use AI to not fall back in this ever shifting economy. Mm, Drop your comments with feedback and maybe questions for Hagop, and we'll drop links in the descriptions as well to connect
I'm
with
easy to
Hagop.
find. Anyone who wants to connect can easily do so.
So thank you again, and I'll see you in the next episode.